Hey guys, I spent a couple more hours troubleshooting this set and I think I've got just about every problem nailed down. First off, the really flaky horizontal sync was being caused by these two tubes. One is a 6SN7 horizontal oscillator and the other is a 6AL5 automatic frequency control tube. I swapped out both of them and now the horizontal locks much better. Pretty much right in the middle of the control, needs very little adjustment, no high-pitched squeal, nothing, just locks right in. Two, the problem with the vertical fold over and it's shrinking and expanding and going all crazy, that was caused by a bad 25L6, so I replaced that. I think it's this guy here. Let's see what else. Oh, the horrible ozone smell. It turns out that one of the yoke leads was coming pretty close to the cap on the high voltage rectifier, and there were these purple streamers of a high voltage corona going between those, so I just moved those wires away. That got rid of just about all of it. I think I should go over these wires a bit better. See, with high voltage connections, you don't want to have any points. Like it looks like there's some wire fibers kind of sticking out here and there. You really want to have like just a big ball solder joint. This is one case where it's not too bad to use too much solder and have a big ball there. Any sharp surfaces collect the charge and you can get some corona going around there. And if all else fails, I can always use this corona dope. It's kind of a newer version of what I suppose this stuff is, or rather here, this reddish brown paint I mentioned in an earlier video. This will help seal it and prevent any high voltage from getting out. This is a lot better than something like liquid electrical tape. This is meant specifically to prevent that high voltage corona. Oh, if you're wondering what these are, that's what I hid the diodes. I just put them inside a heat shrink tubing so they wouldn't short out to anything. I'll find a more suitable mounting location soon. Now that I know the set's working. Oh, the focus. I had to rotate the focus all the way in one direction and it still wasn't very good. Then that got me thinking about those three big resistors that were down here that I removed. And I went back to looking on the schematic in a little more detail, and I discovered that off of the focus control, if you follow this around and around, there is a 9.1K or 9100 ohm resistor going to this bus, which is circuit ground. That's what those three resistors were trying to replace. And I just removed them entirely because I couldn't figure out what they were there for. Well, that's probably... I'm sure it's affecting the focus because it goes right from the center wiper on the focus rheostat to ground. So I dug up a 9.1K 5-watt resistor and I will mount that back in where that glob was, which was somewhere down around here, and that should solve that problem. And there was also a pretty loud hum in the audio, and I'll show you how I solved that once I get the set flipped back down and powered on. And finally, something I should mention is that virtually every capacitor I used in this set actually came from that TV and radio lab that I had been scrounging tubes from. On one of my excursions I found a big bag full of capacitors, and that's where all these yellow caps came from. So I thought it was kind of neat that I was able to actually take some stuff salvaged from a real vintage TV repair shop and get another vintage TV working. I've got the set back right side up. Another thing I did was I went through all the tubes again, not just the ones in the horizontal and the vertical, and I found a few of these miniature types on the front end here that were a little weak or had some secondary emissions, so I replaced those. And like I said, the set's playing better now. I mentioned there was a bit of a buzz earlier. Look at that. Well, that was simple enough to fix. Remember earlier I mentioned that the tube shields were missing from this set. There's supposed to be one over the 6J5, which is the first stage of the audio amp right before the 6V6 output tube. put a shield over it, and no more buzz. So, no shield, shield. So, that's simple enough to fix. I'll have to track down a more appropriate shield. This is actually from a p6o radio, but it fits over the tube well enough. Now, as far as how this set plays, I turned off my my converter box. Let's see. There we go. So, it's playing much better now. And all those problems with the controls on the back are gone now. So for example, here's a horizontal hold, which before was giving me all kinds of headaches. Now I get horizontal lock when the control's in its middle of when the control's in the middle of its range, and I don't get a high voltage collapse when I adjust it. So that's just fine. Horizontal hold. Working just like it's supposed to. And here's the vertical height. Still collapses now and then, but it does work like it's supposed to. So there we have less height, there we have more height, and then here's the linearity. It's a little tough to do the linearity with a test pattern generator. You just kind of have to eyeball people's faces and, you know, get them to look kind of right. So they're not all smushed. So, you see the people's heads are all kind of crushed there, so that's obviously not right. There's also no fold over at the bottom anymore, so all I need to do, I think, is just get these controls all tweaked up right. Right there is not bad. What I really need to do is get this set back in the cabinet, because this is not a porthole set, meaning that you don't see the whole round screen. There's a screen bezel that goes on here. It's going to cut off part of the top, part of the bottom. I need to get this set up so that the screen is centered right, so that I get all the most active content in the viewable area. I don't want to have stuff chopped off at the top and bottom. So that'll be my next step. I'll get that metal strap back on to securely hold the CRT in place and get it in the cabinet, and I'll use a marker to mark out the visible area. Then I'll get my test pattern generator on it, and we'll pick up there. Well, I changed my mind. I figured I'd better deal with some cosmetic issues before I do the final tweaks. Because in order to clean up this chassis, I have to get the picture tube made, all the tweaks, then took the picture tube out, cleaned the chassis, and remounted it. I have to make those tweaks again, so best to deal with all this cleanup now. So, got various rust splotches around the chassis, some on this transformer, some on this focus coil, this wing nuts, and even the heads on these trimmer caps in the tuner. So I'm just going to use some navel jelly and Q-tips and carefully get rid of all that rust. I don't want to have to disassemble this chassis. That's just far too much work. I want to replace this antenna cord, this twin lead here, because it's falling apart. this tuner control shaft was really grungy, and I was surprised to discover that it's actually silver, or silver plated, probably silver plated brass. No reason to silver plate a control shaft that I can think of, other than perhaps because this is a wafer switch assembly back here. Those contacts are silver plated. Maybe they just silver plated the whole tuner assembly. I'm not sure, but I figured what the heck, might as well clean it up because it will polish up very nicely. So I've got some Tarnex and Q-tips, and as I started working on this, I should be able to get all that black off without too much trouble. And I want to dress this high voltage lead up a bit better. I was still getting some arcing because this lead was coming pretty close to this transformer case. This is really not the best design to have the high voltage lead just coming out of a hole in the chassis there and then running near several components. They have a little piece of cardboard here that's supposed to kind of guide this away from obstructions, but I think I better do something a little bit better there. Make sure that doesn't come close to either this or this. Oh, and then there's this mess here. If you recall, originally there was a 7.5 ohm fusistor. What that is, it's a fusible resistor or fuse resistor. It is a resistor that's designed to burn out if there's an excessive amount of current. So it not only serves to limit the inrush current and cut down the voltage and current a little bit, but it's also designed to burn out safely if there's something wrong with the set. So these power resistors like I've got here are really not a good idea. I dug through some new old stock TV parts I've got, and I actually found some genuine fusible resistors, and they're all 7.5 ohm. So I suppose I could put one of these in the set, assuming it's still good. But then I'd have slightly higher voltage than the set was spec'd out. I think I will try it just to see how much higher the voltage is, because I don't think it'll be too much higher. I found around 13, 14 ohms was giving me dead-on voltages. Well, so 7.5 will be a bit higher, but maybe not too much higher. Otherwise, I could put a resistor in series with this, say like 5 ohms or so. So I'd still get the benefit of the fusing action on this, and the other resistor would cut the voltage and current down appropriately. Otherwise, I could get something like a 13 or 15 ohm resistor and put a fuse in series with it to simulate one of these. Regardless, I'll come up with something better than this. And I think that'll be about it. And then I can mount that CRT. We've got the test pattern generator. Once I got started cleaning the chassis, I figured I might as well go all the way, so I ended up unmounting some of the stuff in here, the yoke, the focus magnet, pop this transformer open, and so on. So I've removed pretty much all the corrosion, just a little bit left in here, and now I'm getting ready to do some painting. There's just too many wires going to this transformer, so I'm not going to remove it, but I was able to remove the bolts holding the clamshells on. Got one side off, and the other one has wires going through the base, so I can't pull it off. So what I'm going to do is paint up the center cores with flat black paint with just a brush, and then I'm going to mask off the whole chassis around here, and then spray this side and spray this with this is black semi-gloss engine enamel. And as for this stuff, the coppery stuff, I'm not going to have it re-copper plated. That would just be cost prohibitive. So I'm going to primer it up and then spray it with this Rust-Oleum Specialty Metallic Copper, which I think will look pretty good. So this is the piece that holds the focus magnet on. I went down here. And this is the cover that goes over the tuner on the side there. And then this is the focus magnet itself. It's pretty darn heavy. Interesting construction on this. It appears it was steel and then copper plated and then painted black. So I'm going to use a bit of primer to fill in these rust pits here, and then I guess paint it all flat black. And I guess I'll touch this up a bit too. And I think that will do it.